Hello everyone, Frank DIMORA here with the End Times Research Ministry, November the 21st, 2016. Today I want to cover very quickly a prophecy by Daniel, which is found in the Old Testament, a warning about a revived Roman Empire in the last days and what would happen when this revived Roman Empire was established. Now in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, verses 40 through 44, I can't give you a whole dissertation on how the revived Roman Empire will come to pass, but if you want that type of information, you could download my book today for free at my website, the End Times Research Ministry. But in verses 40 to 44, what we do know is that when the revived Roman Empire comes, it will not cleave together. It's not going to hold together. It's going to break apart. One of the reasons why it's going to break apart is because the culture will not mix. You have Muslims against Christians. We see that taking place right now in the European Union, which is the revived Roman Empire. And again, all that information of who these nations are, they've come together just like in the times of Jesus Christ when there was the first Roman Empire. And so it's already here. Now, back in December of 2009, I began to warn you, and what you're looking at is an article that appeared in my book. It's still there, all the way back from 2009, where I begin to tell you, watch what's going on in the European Union, because if we're reading Daniel correctly, then because the European Union is already established and is the revived Roman Empire, we should see evidence in the future of it beginning to break down. That's exactly what's happening. So in 2009, I gave you a report. The title of that report, The Euro Breakup, will be the story of 2010 as analyst expects Ireland and Greece to leave the European Union. Now, what happened back in 2009 was the economy was in turmoil. And they suspected in 2009, because of these financial woes and turmoil, that Greece would leave at that time. But God has timing for everything, and our job is to keep on the watch what's going on, see what happens in the future. But it actually started, this turmoil, in 2009. And if you want to even go to 2008, where the bad recession took place, but in 2009 it really started to show up in the press. So over the course of these many years now, since 2009, we've seen reoccurrences of bad news for the European Union, breaking apart. We saw Great Britain, for example, leave the European Union with their latest vote in 2016, the Brexit, where the referendum was voted on and they voted to break away from the revived Roman Empire, or if you will, the European Union. Now, earlier in this year, in June of 2016, on my post, I warned about France. And I focused on Marine Le Pen because back then I said that, look, she wants to get out of the European Union. And we should be watching what she does because we have seen evidence of the breakdown coming. So I pointed out in 2016, you'll see that article that came out June the 28th, where the headline reads, France's Marine Le Pen on Brexit. This is the beginning of the end of the European Union. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but France is in a process now, just like the United States was, of picking a new leader for their country. And there was a young man that has been in the lead in France, but all of a sudden, Marine Le Pen has taken a lead. And the Zero Hedge talks about this in this article that came out yesterday, November the 20th of 2016, where the headline reads, Marine Le Pen takes huge lead in French presidential election poll just days after being written off. Same thing that Donald Trump went through. And all of a sudden, look at what happened with Donald Trump. He's the president-elect. I don't think any of these things are an accident. I believe that we're heading towards the final days and God is preparing the road to fulfill all the rest of the prophecies that haven't been fulfilled. But this article says, I'm just going to read a portion of the article. I'm going to have the link at my website. In order to recognize the referendum, I need to win the presidential elections next year. Now, the referendum that she's talking about is that when you read the articles about pulling away from the European Union from Marine Le Pen, the referendum that she's talking about is one just like a Brexit, that let's pull away from the European Union, or if you will, pull away from the revived Roman Empire. It says, I'm the only major candidate that has proposed a referendum, and that has been since 4 years ago, since before UK Prime Minister David Cameron, that I suggested organizing a referendum. I would go to the European institutions. I would demand for the French people 4 sovereignties: territorial, our borders, monetary and budgetary, economic and legislative. Either the European Union says yes to me, or they would say no. And I would say to the French, there is no only other solution but to leave the EU. So this is why I'm bringing you this information, is because of what God told Daniel. And because when you connect the dots between what God told Daniel and what we're actually seeing from this revived Roman Empire, it's identical to this point. And that's why it's important for us to keep on the watch what happens with the European Union. Because if they keep breaking up, if they keep having problems between the Muslims and the Christians, and this is only the tip of the iceberg of what's going on in the European Union if you've been watching it. But the bottom line is this. Here we have warnings in the Bible. We see it taking place in our generation. And that should prompt everybody to pay more attention to these last days signs. Now Germany, let's take a look at Germany for a second here, because Germany is one of the strongest nations in the European Union. And earlier this year, July 27th, 2016, take a look. The headline, will Germany leave the EU? Will Germans demand their own referendum after Brexit? Germany has been having major problems. And part of the problems in Germany is the influx of migrant people, Muslims, that are causing major problems in Germany. Major conflicts, violence in Germany. And many now are saying they have to have a new direction, and part of the new direction that people are talking about is do the same thing as Great Britain, exit the European Union, or if you will, exit the revived Roman Empire. So again, everything that I'm showing you is based on the warnings of what we know in Daniel. And if Daniel tells us it won't cleave, they won't stay together, there will be a breakup, that's what we should be looking for. So I just wanted to give you an update as we watch what happens in Europe with the coming elections, just like the Americans have been watching what's going on in the United States with Donald Trump. So if you'd like some more information about this issue, just go over to my website. Just scroll down and you'll see a link to my book right there, November the 17th. That's the newest edition of my book. Just click the link and you'll be able to read my book, The Last Chronicles of Planet Earth, a documentary that connects Bible prophecy with current events, for absolutely free. This is Frank DIMORA with the End Times Research Ministry. God bless.